very much indeed. Hello and welcome to Springwatch Unsprung, coming to you from the sunny Minsmere RSPB Reserve up on the Suffolk coast. We've got a great show for you tonight, but before we get into that, let me show you what we do when we get here to Minsmere. We bug this place with lots of remote cameras so we can stick our noses into the lives of the creatures that live here. We've got no less than 29 cameras out on the reserve at the moment, and this is what they're looking at. We've got a fine array of the human species in here this evening, I have to say, made up of a local audience of people from around the area and a couple of notable guests. Now, our first guest was a founder member of two of the greatest 80s bands, the Human League and Heaven 17. He then went on to be a very successful record producer before he got fed up with being boiled by the music industry and succumbed to temptation. And that was to go out into the wild and create natural soundscapes. So we're going to be talking to Martin Ware about that a bit later on. Thank you, Martin. And our second guest is an author and blogger who produces a weekly podcast called Geek Chick Weird Science. In fact, it's award-winning. And so she's going to tell us a bit later on why sharks like heavy metal and the fact that pigeons make good art critics. Thank you very much. Are pigeons any good for elocution as well? Because we could do with some pigeons in there on that. Well, I could on that account, I think.
Hi, how are you today?
Yeah, well, apart from the slip up with critics, I'm okay,
hey,
yeah.
It's fine. I'm emotionally drained.
Are you?
I am. Yeah, after last night on the live cameras.
So, yeah, it was all kicking off last night. It's been the same today, I've got to say. There's more to come tonight.
Very, very busy day. If you didn't manage to catch last night's Springwatch, have a look at this. Here's a quick reminder of what was going on. It was predation everywhere. There was quite a bit of death. Yeah,
well, this was the whitethroat's nest, and they all scattered out of the nest because, as you can see from the bottom of the screen here, a female adder has appeared. The nest is only about 1 metre high in the brambles. The young survived this onslaught because you could hear there the alarm call of the adult, and that was purposeful. That was to get them to burst out of that nest to get away from the predator, and they certainly managed to do it.
But we also had a stoat on great tits. We had a stoat on woodpecker as well.
Jay on the great tits as well, and as I say, there's a lot more action coming up at 8 o'clock tonight.
Absolutely, and social media went absolutely crazy. Vicky Riley said, "Man, nature is brutal." Which it is, and David Anderson came straight back and said, "Nature is brilliant. Chicks of that jay and kits of that stoat will be looking good." And Matt Sheriff went straight in and said, "Blimey, Game of Thrones has nothing on the mayhem that is tonight's Springwatch."
But we can't promise you dragons, unfortunately. That's the one thing we're short of at Minsmere. They've got everything else but dragons.
And of course, this is the natural word, so predation.
It's part and parcel of it. That's the way the world goes round. And our job here is to report on what we see and explain to you, relatively dispassionately, why it occurs. And there is a good reason for all of that, and it is about the sustenance of life. Sometimes that sustenance comes through the death of other things. It's just the way it is.
And predation is going on right across the country. I've been sent loads of brilliant pictures. Have a look at this. This is a weasel with a lizard by Graham Parry. It's a great shot. And then we were sent this grass snake eating a great crested newt. Look at that.
Yeah.
Amazing. And finally, I quite like this one. This is a cormorant trying to eat a fish.
Well, I think it will manage it, you know, because they do have an enormous gape, and sometimes we see these birds trying to swallow huge fish, and you'll think it's never going to go down, but it does eventually get the fish down.
Please keep those pictures coming. They are absolutely brilliant, and don't forget to watch our live cams. It's so easy to do. I can show you. Just type in bbc.co.uk when you /Springwatch. When you get to the website, it looks like this. If you scroll down, see if we can do. Oh no. Go on. Yeah, there we go. There's a lovely blog there, and if you hit live coverage, there you go, you can see the 4 web streams that we have, so you can choose which one you want to watch. It's absolutely ace. Now, this month is the Wildlife Trust's 30 Days of Nature. It's all about getting out and doing something with nature every day. This month in June, what have you done today?
Yeah, I was going to ask you first. Yeah, now what have you been doing then? Go on.
I went out to see some bats last night.
Did you?
And today I've been looking at many, many wildlife pictures.
Okay.
You?
I did sort of wild things in the shower, you know. Singing.
Let's move on.
I was singing
Let's
in
move
the
on
shower.
to some of the pictures that I've seen. Have a look at this one. So this is from SJ. She's been counting bats with her daughter, Megan Rose. Then Oliver Andrews sent us this picture of a caterpillar in his garden. And Will Harper Penrose, one for you here, Chris. He's been wearing a wild shirt at work. Check that out.
That's quite a shirt, actually. It's botanically accurate as well, so it gets extra points. Bad taste and botanically accurate. Pretty good, pretty good. I'm only offering 50% tonight, so I feel outdone by the shirt.
Now, of course, it's time for tonight's quiz, which is set by Sophie, so here she is.
Hi, I'm Sophie, and this is my quiz for you. As this feather shows, the bird is mostly white, black and chestnut. This is Britain's largest duck. Whose feather is this?
And here's the feather. There was a bit of a clue in the opening montage as well, if you were watching that very closely. So get in touch now using the hashtag Springwatch. I'll be watching your answers through the show.
It's quite a sort of an 80s bird, isn't it, I'd have to say. Look at that. It's quite an 80s bird in terms of its colouring. Which brings us neatly to Martin. Martin, thank you very much for coming in. I'm not sure about nostalgia, mate, but the 80s, some say those were the days.
Well, they were the days. It was the last golden age of great music, I think.
Yeah, and you were involved in that. We've got a couple of shots of you,
I would
actually.
say
Yeah,
that,
but Human League here.
Oh, dear.
Early days, Being Boiled, Empire State Human. I remember the singles.
Oh, yeah,
having
have you got
those.
them?
Yeah, I've got them, still got them all. Yeah, of
fantastic.
course,
Thank you, yeah.
And then you went on to Heaven 17.
Yeah.
More chart success with Heaven
A bit
17.
more like Robert De Niro there. The young Robert De Niro.
Yeah, yes, very 80s, actually. Just like the feather. Top work. But it must have been good fun.
Oh, it was amazing. It was party time non-stop, really. And I think the music was really good. The credible end of it all. It's not all kind of fancy haircuts and stuff, but
Yeah.
we dressed nicely, and I think people like that.
But you're still touring occasionally.
Yeah, we're touring later this year, actually, all over the country, so come and see us, yeah. We're still playing all the great hits.
And I saw that...
Temptation, everybody knows Temptation. Well, a few of you do. Those who are old enough.
You should do.
None of you are old
But you've
enough.
done recent versions with LaRue. I noticed that as well some time ago.
Sorry,
You did another version with LaRue, didn't you?
LaRue, yeah. Some of the young artists really like the stuff we did, and a lot of electro DJs still play our stuff. So.
Yeah, well, you were known as the Crown Prince of electronic music.
Oh my goodness, where did you read that one?
Oh, yes, we do our research. We do our research. Oh, no, I think justified, because it was an amazing time. We've been through punk, and then, of course, with the development of synthesizers, you were the guys, and OMD, and there were a few others as well, who got hold of that stuff and started using it.
We developed it from kind of craft work through to more electronics. I mean, it's very common nowadays, isn't it? But back then it was quite unusual.
It was innovative, of course. But you still like your wildlife, because you're in Primrose Hill now, and you get out and about.
Oh, yes, I do, yeah. Well, we see plenty of foxes in Primrose Hill, and lots of birds and various jays and, blue tits, etc.
And you've got the parks.
Oh, the park's fantastic. Well, the zoo's nearby, so I wake up at 4 a.m, listening to lemurs calling, of all things, from there.
Exotic, here we are, you've got your robins and all that, that
Yeah,
sort
and
of thing.
robins, we get all that stuff, yeah.
But how did you go then from pop music into these soundscapes? Because you're involved with the National Trust and their Sound of the Seas.
That's
Sound
right.
of our Seas.
I was approached to do... I've got a special system which does realistic three-dimensional sound. And they approached us, and I do natural soundscapes as well as electronic soundscapes. And they said, would you be interested in recording people's memories of the sea? And together with their recordings of the wildlife from the sea, from the seaside. And I merged it all together into a soundscape, 3D soundscape, which then was played at Somerset House, and also is free to download on the website.
So the purpose is to generate an acoustic feeling of a place using those natural sounds.
Precisely. It's like a magic realism for sound, really.
OK. Well, we put some pictures to a
lovely.
part of the soundscape. Yeah, so let's have a look and listen.
Favourite sounds of our shores? Well, I'd have to go back to childhood, and it would be the sound of skylarks in the air
chill and cold as can be, a ride in the swell on the cold northern sea, into the sun.
Not just natural sounds, there's a bit of shanty in there and someone's recollections as well.
These were all contributed by various members of the public via their smartphones, which actually is a bit of a lesson. Everybody here probably has a smartphone in the pocket. It's not on at the moment, I hope. But you can go and record your natural environment and upload it to various things on the internet, and so other people can hear it. And actually, some of the music in that was written by my son, Gabriel, as well.
Linz.
We have actually, in your honour, Martin, put together a little gallery of pictures from our Flickr account of 80s-looking birds. So have a look at this first one here. I've enjoyed doing this today. So this is my favourite bird. It's a great crested grebe. Do you like the hair?
It's kind of a flock of seagulls. It's quite appropriate.
A flock of seagulls,
Not bad at all.
Wishing
and
we had a
then
photograph
this
of the
one, I
grebe.
picked this parakeet for the colouring, obviously. It's a bit
That's
80s punk.
interesting.
What are you thinking? I'm thinking
know,
more, well, I don't
It's
know.
like Camden, where I live, you know, see this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And then this one as well. This is a
Yes,
cuckoo.
that
Check
was
out
it.
the hair on that.
Oh my goodness, what's that then?
I don't know, there's a bit of Duran on a bad day,
Or
isn't there?
crass.
And what about this
Crass.
80s icon? Have a look at this 80s icon with a very... Very questionable phone that you've got there,
Questionable
Chris.
phone, isn't it? Just the phone, that's right. Yeah, that's semi-adult plumage. Semi-adult.
That's his latest phone.
Yeah, that probably is. Now, every one of our guests that visits us here is set a challenge, Drawn to be Wild, we call it. We give them a selection of artist materials and just 10 minutes to reproduce something about Minsmere. Now, Martin, you're an accomplished soundscaper. We can see
I'm
that.
a
of course.
terrible artist.
Are you? Okay.
I'm
Let's see
warning
what-
you, but I'm appealing to you.
Okay, well, let's see what you
well,
had.
here it is.
Okay.
Here it is. What it is, in case you can't
Hold
tell.
on, I feel justification coming on.
Well, I'm excited by the whole feeding thing.
Yeah.
So this is just a giant beak, really, with a kind of abstract nest and
Yeah.
a little bit of a bird in the background.
Yeah.
But it's got energy, I think.
It has got energy. I'm drawn to it. I almost want to put a worm into it. What's the purple at the bottom?
Oh,
here?
this was like, it had a bit of a scrawny neck, so I just thought this is just my effort to put a bit of colour into it.
Okay.
10 minutes isn't long, you know.
10 minutes is not long. What do we think then? What do we think about the gaping chair? You see, I'm always drawn to the unusual and the abstract, Martin, you see. I do like that. And I like the fact that you've got this central point of colour, and just like the bird's beak, which is the reason why it's there, of course, I'm drawn to that. As I said, I do want to put a worm into it. So I'm going to score this one really highly, actually. I'm going to demote this one here, and I'm going to put this into joint second. You've topped Jason Singh and Will Young here, I have to say, and Ajay. So, yeah, pretty good.
Thank you
pretty
very
good. What
much,
do you think, Liz?
Chris.
Well,
That's very
I
kind.
like it, and we're getting a lot of cheers over here, aren't we? You seem to really like that picture. It's great stuff. Now, Springwatch presenter Michaela Strachan is passionate about wildlife rehabilitation, and she went to one of the country's biggest rescue centres to see what the volunteers do there, and we went along to see how she got on.
Sarah, I have something quite...
It's day 2 of my volunteering for Stately Grange RSPCA, and I'm really looking forward to it again. I learnt so much on the first day. I mean, I have done rehabilitation and volunteering work before, but it makes you realise that the more you do, the more useful you can be. And I'm ready to get my hands dirty, ready to help, and hopefully I can be really useful.
I've got a goal for you.
Okay,
It's
right,
quiet now, but
goal.
it's been moving a lot in that box.
Okay, so let's just pop him down here and we'll just see if he can walk.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about his spine because you see the way he was desperately trying to move use his wings to move. So what we're going to have to do with him is actually do an X-ray. That's it. All you need to do is just hold his head nice and still.
And how do you know when they've actually gone down?
So he'll start to feel very heavy in your hands. He'll feel quite floppy. So So that all looks good from that angle. His legs look good. So the good news is there's no obvious spinal fracture we can see.
So it's time to get on with my other duties. Certainly keeps you busy, but it's all for a good cause.
And just make sure to wipe down.
I've sneaked out for a cup of tea. I tell you, it's so busy in there. You literally, if you're hanging around, they'll find a job for you. So I just thought I'd get myself a cup of tea and have 5 minutes off. It's tiring. Dressing up for the next task in hand, it's time to meet my next customer.
What's next then, Rob?
So what we're going to do is catch up this group of fox cubs.
Okay.
And they are going to go to one of the outdoor enclosures.
Okay, great.
Give them a bit more space.
Oh my gosh, how many are there?
Should be 5 here.
They are gorgeous animals, but wow, they really do smell, don't they?
So what's going to happen to these foxes now?
We're going to put them into the outdoor enclosures. So this is where the foxes will stay for the next 6 months. So we'll make a bit of a den here for them, and
What, like that?
yeah, just some places for them to hide.
I quite like the look of that den, I'm liking it. Needs a bit more colour, if you ask me. It's looking lovely.
And I think we're pretty much sorted now.
I think we are.
Well, I've had another great day's volunteering. It's certainly been a lot of fun getting to meet and help these wonderful wild animals. And it's also incredibly rewarding to know that you can really make a difference.
In there, getting
Good
your hands
to see,
dirty.
good to see.
Very
But
good to
complaining
see.
about the smell of foxes, I'm going to have to speak to her about that. I think they smell nice.
Really?
Yeah, you get used to it. I used to have them in the house. Well, I got used to them. My mum didn't, but, you know.
And of course, it is the BBC's Do Something Great campaign that's going on at the moment. That's a hashtag. Lots of people have been getting in touch already. I've got a couple of tweets here. This one has been sent by Kelly Smith. She's made a bug house, which is great. And David Richards, if I just show you this, he has built a pond with a mini bridge in his garden and he's been planting and is hoping the wildlife will come to it.
Which it will. Building a pond is the best thing you can do in your garden. Doesn't matter how big it is. Even if it's just a bucket, you'll get a diversity of life that will grow in your garden. So any amount of water is a good thing to do. Let's move on to our next guest. Lilana, come over and join us on the sofa. Thanks very much for coming in. You've always been into wildlife, and so is the rest of your family, frankly.
Yes, I was really obsessed when I was a kid, and luckily for me, my family shared in my obsession with wildlife. So even though living in London, my mum used to take me and my sister to Portobello Market, and we used to visit Smarty the parrot.
We've got a picture of Smarty the
Yes,
parrot. Here he is.
that's me in the 80s,
It's
there you
a
go.
perfect perch. Oh, that's you in the 80s,
Yes.
yeah. Trying to claw back some credibility in the audience, yeah.
And we used to go to Devon on the weekends, and my sister, I remember, she was really, really obsessed, and she went on to do conservation work in Africa, so I used to get to go to visit her. And I remember one time I came home and she told me, I was about 6 years old, and she said, "Don't go in my bedroom, you're not allowed in." And I got very paranoid and thought she must hate me. And so I snuck in, of course, as you do, and found out that she was keeping an injured baby blackbird under her bed.
Under the bed?
Yeah, and we started looking after it together, and it brought us a little bit closer. That was nice.
What, you and your sister?
Yes.
What about the
bird
blackbird?
sisters. I don't know about that. No, he was all right, and we released him in the end.
The best place to keep a blackbird, under the bed. But I mean, you've got to start somewhere. I did equally unspeakable things to animals. But now, though, you're very keen on science and trying to get a new audience for that. And I read that you want to make science as cool as rock and roll.
Yes, well, I just think science gets a bit of a bad rap sometimes, and some people can say that it's a little bit boring, but I disagree. I think it can be very fun and funny. And I do a music show on Radio X, and I decided to bring in a little bit of the science and nature element and start doing a segment with my friend Dr. Jack Lewis called Geek Chic's Weird Science, and we turned it into a podcast and then into a book. So, yeah, we're on a mission.
OK, but if it is as cool as rock and roll, we'll have to put up with groupies and headers
Awful.
and stuff like that. It must have been terrible, Martin. Don't tell us about it now.
I don't know how I dealt with it.
Don't tell us about it now. But no, look, so you put this book together, The Mice Who Sing for Sex.
Yes.
Let's start with some of the things in here, because I was reading some of it last night. Sharks that enjoy heavy metal.
That's right, yeah. This was discovered by accident by an Aussie cage dive operator. So he used to put tourists who in Australia are in cages, and sharks would hopefully come up to them. And he discovered it by accident because he just had these underwater speakers years.
But why would you be playing heavy metal underwater?
Well, it was actually... No, he put it off in the water and it was just the first thing on his iPod was, of course, AC/DC, as it would be. And he just discovered that these sharks were just coming up to the cage and then rubbing their faces up against the cage and very calm and chilled
But did he
out.
try Heaven 17?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, no, and I think death metal was another one that they tried. They've repeated this a few times. It's to do with the sound. It mimics the sound of thrashing about dying fish. It's called the Yummy Heart.
Like our records, actually.
What about the mice who sing for sex? Because we know that mice and rats will sing, don't we?
Yes. Well, they've known for about 50 years now that male mice will sing for sex, and when they smell females pee, which is very luring apparently, they start to do some ultrasonic love squeaks. But
So we can't
That's
hear
a great name for a band, by the way.
Yes, ultrasonic love squeaks.
Ultrasonic love squeaks.
Or a new album.
We can't hear it, it's too high-pitched for us. But only recently they discovered that the female mice sing back.
Right.
So it's kind of like a little duet going on, and they chase each other around and they match their songs to each other, so it's quite a beautiful thing, I think.
Okay. The most fascinating thing I read, because I have a keen interest in both, pigeons that are becoming art critics.
Yes. So I think pigeons get a bit of a bad rap. They're like the underdogs of the bird world, and people think they just cause problems in Trafalgar Square, but actually they're super smart and they've got an incredible visual processing system, very complex. And it was discovered by this professor that they can actually tell the difference between Monet and Picasso paintings and Van Gogh and Chagall's, and they can actually do it as well as we humans can. And he even found out that they could tell the difference between good and bad art. If they were trained up first with hemp seeds, they could distinguish what... you know, you have to give them some reward. But yeah, they could tell the difference between kids' art that we rate as good or bad. So yeah, smart.
It's incredible stuff, isn't it? And it didn't matter whether they were upside down, the paintings, because they
only on Picasso though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were able to look at the construction of that, which, you know, might explain why some people hang their paintings upside down.
Exactly.
I've seen a Rothko upside down in someone's house, and it was very distressing to me.
I would like to see pigeons judging next year's Turner Prize.
OK, but you think that animals don't like you, despite the fact that you rather like them?
I know. It's a bit of an unrequited love. I have an affinity for them, but they don't seem to share that for me. I think it's because I'm a bit needy with them, and I'm sort of pleading with them to love me, and they can sense that, so they're a bit like, oh, not bothered. And I remember I was travelling around in Laos, and this monkey in this temple came up to me, and I was really smug because it came and sat on my shoulder, and I was sort of looking at all my friends like, the monkey loves me. And then literally within a second, it slapped me in the face and stole my camera and ran off. And that kind of stuff happens quite often to me, sadly.
Yeah, it might have been like something else, some other signal you were sending out to the monkey. I won't get into the detail of that, the way that monkeys communicate. And at this point, let's have a look, because you've been out on the reserve with Martin this afternoon, enjoying yourselves in the sunshine, I think.
Thank you.
Oh, that's just amazing.
I've come all the way from London and I've just spotted a pigeon.
Pigeon.
I think it's followed me up. Oh look, there's ducklings.
They make such a racket,
so
don't they?
Sweet.
That
is showing off now.
Beautiful thing. That's amazing.
We'd like to quite to see unicorns next week.
Yeah. Unicorns and rainbows next week.
Really amazing place up here.
Beautiful.
Absolutely
I want to come back.
It was
You're going to come back?
Time,
Really stunning. And everything that we said we wanted to see would magically appear.
Yeah.
Except for unicorns.
The
Yeah, that's the only one. Yeah. And the
It doesn't happen for us, unfortunately. I mean, you must stick around. Anyway, it's time to have a look at your challenge now. Maybe we need a pigeon to judge it. Any pigeons in the audience?
Yeah.
OK, let's have a look. Here we are. Oh, my goodness me. This is pretty good. Look at this.
I think it's good.
What do we think of that?
If in doubt, collage.
Yes, it's mixed media, I think, is the term. OK, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
That looks pretty good.
Very good.
I've got to say that in pigeon mode, looking at that, I don't recognise it as a Monet or a Picasso or anything else, but I do recognise it as top of the board. Degree of ornithological accuracy involved in that. There's mixed media and a message. Feed me. I'm scoring multiple points and I'm not even a pigeon.
That's very strong. She did say at the top of the show that she was pretty competitive. Is that right?
True say.
Very happy to be there.
Good.
Actually, in your honour, I've had a little look through all our pictures on social media to see if I could find any weird or wonderful animals. And of course, you didn't disappoint. Thank you so much. Have a look at this, Chris. So these are from an interesting perspective. This is a double-headed badger, as it were.
Oh yes, a chimeric badger.
Or just a clever picture.
Yeah, not too bad, just squeezed together on a patio.
So that's from Bird and Brain UK. And then I got quite into this. So I thought, what else can I find? And I found this double-headed gull by Mark Gray. What do you think of that picture?
Well, it's slightly convincing until you count the legs.
Amazing. And finally, here we go. This is a four-headed stoat, in a way.
Wow, look at that. So actually, forget the four-headed, it's a really nice photograph, isn't it? Because the light is on the head of that stoat in the middle there. All of the others nuzzling around, bit of backlight behind. Shame about that leaf in the foreground. But, I mean, it's pretty good. I'd be happy with that.
Well, I'm just going to come back at you with that, because that's actually our Minsmere stoat.
Is it?
It is. That was taken here with
they
with
photographed
kits.
our stoat?
Yeah, they
Pretty
were out
good.
next to our cameramen. Now, it's time to resolve the quiz. Now, at the top of the show, we asked you what you thought this feather belonged to. A few people got in touch. Actually, a lot of people got in touch. And it was quite divided tonight. A lot of people thought it was an eider duck. Emma Robinson, the main stand, Jack Dawson. Some people thought it was a Muscovy duck. Any idea in the audience what this feather
Here we are. The feather belongs to... Who do I think?
Shelduck.
Shelduck.
Well, I'll tell
Shelduck,
you
the
what,
audience say.
Let's find out. Here's Sophie.
This is the feather of a shelduck.
So 80s.
It's a very 80s bird, actually, I have to say, yeah. But I like the colouring of a shelduck. They're bold, aren't they?
They're
Nice
good,
red
and
beak,
many
yeah.
people got it right. Kathy Tipping, Sam Washington, Wendy, Paul Highfield, Amy Davis, so many people. So thank you for sending those in. Now, Chris, at the very beginning of the show, I did mention yesterday being quite epic in terms of predation, so I thought what I'd do is smother you in cuteness now. Hope that's all right. Know how much you like it.
Yeah.
So have a look at this first picture here.
Stop it.
Come on. That's
Stop it.
very, very cute. So that's a
vole.
water vole.
Yeah.
That's been sent in. I actually think this next picture is even cuter. That's right. It's a damselfly looking super cute.
Very good, very good. Both bulging eyes. That's what puts me off the water vole. They've got their eyes that are right on the side of their skull, which must be a useful adaptation to seeing all around you. They are predated by all sorts of... Oh, we're not meant to be talking about predation, are we? But they are predated by all sorts of things, so I presume that's an adaptation to that as well. But the damselfly, yes, exquisitely beautiful.
So I've done cute, I've done predation, now I'm going to do a little bit gross. So if you're eating your tea, get ready for this. This was filmed earlier. It's our sparrowhawk.
It's Olympian.
It really is.
It's Olympian. I hope that's representing us in Rio.
Absolutely, and I'm just going to sneak a quick question in as well, because I never get to do my questions. Crawford asks, why are birds' legs and mouths often yellow, just like the picture that we had? Is there an advantage to being yellow?
That's a very interesting question. I don't think I can answer it directly. There will be a purpose for that. It might be pigment, in terms of which pigment is available to the bird. For instance, we don't see many blue pigments in nature because most of the substances that form blue are toxic. But yellow is quite frequent, certainly in the legs of birds of prey. So there must be an adaptive advantage. So I think I'll have to get back to you on that. If anyone in the audience knows, or anyone at home, then please tell us. That we're just about running out of time this evening, so I must thank my guests for coming in. Round of applause for them. I'm going to leave you with this. These are our blue ticks. There are only 2 left in the nest. What happened to the rest? Find out at 8 o'clock. It's been quite a week here at Minsmere. Our characters have given us ferocity, glamour, drama and strength.
I'll tell you, there's been more twists, more intrigue, more revelations than a soap opera on Christmas Day.
It's real, it's live, it's Springwatch!
What's he doing? What is Martin doing in a small hole somewhere in the bowels of Minsmere? We'll find out in due course. Hello and welcome to Springwatch, coming to you live here from the RSPB Minsmere Reserve. We've had a tremendous week. It's been absolutely packed with fascinating action. We've been on the edges of our seats here.
It has been very dramatic this week, hasn't it? And one of our main stories is with the blue tit nest box. I mean, you couldn't write it, could you, Chris? You couldn't make it up. We've got a single mother, we've got adopted chicks, we've got different species, we've got possible break-in, we've got tragedy. I mean, just have a look at our nest box live. Let me just remind you of what's going on here. It's a single blue tit mother that is feeding great tit chicks. Now, yesterday, at the end of the programme, we saw that one got predated by a jay. You can see live there's only one left. So what on earth has happened today? Well, here we go. These are the 3 chicks that were left after the one was taken by the jay. Remember, it poked its head out the box. This is what happened this morning at 8:30. The jay came back to have a look. It can't get in the hole, so the chicks were safe for now. But if they keep doing this, then it's not going to be good news. The mother comes back to feed them, and look, you can really see how big these chicks have grown. They're much bigger than their mother, although they're not ready to fledge yet. Probably fledge at the weekend. One pops its head out, which is the sort of behaviour you'd see before fledging, but then it comes out a bit too far. It gets a bit over-enthusiastic. It doesn't want to come out now, so it tries to get back in. But it's very precarious, it's flapping those wings, but unfortunately it falls to the ground. Now, it's extremely vulnerable on the ground. It's cheeping to try and attract the attention of its mother, but unfortunately it attracts the attention of that jay. 2 left in the box this evening. Literally just over an hour ago,
look at that!
The jay takes another one.
So fast.
I know, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? That jay is going to remember that nest well. They've got an amazing memory.
Amazing memory. Remember, these are birds that cache acorns in the autumn time. They can hide up to 5,000 acorns and remember where most of them are. So if it knows where there's a tit's nest like this, full of meat at this time of year, it is going to remember they're there. It's something that we call Piaggian object permanence. Basically, they learn to identify separate individual objects and remember them even when they can't see them. And this is something that we learn to do when we're youngsters. So jays are really, really bright birds. And at the moment, they're feeding their own young. That's what's happening here. They don't normally predate birds like this, but at this time of year when they've got their own young, they do.
I almost don't want to go to the live nest box, but let's go live. Anything could have happened. There's the chick. And I think every single one of us now is rooting for that chick that's left. We're keeping our fingers crossed. We're saying, come on, little great tit.
And we don't want you
Let's get you fledging successfully.
Well, we don't want you to stray from our screen, but you can keep an eye on this bird on the website and on the red button. Our website there has got choice of cameras. If you click on that one, you can watch that chick throughout the course of the show. And we'll be going back to it, of course, to make sure it's still safe. We didn't know about the jay. We thought that one of the problems the tits might have when they fledged was nesting, I don't know, about 100 metres away from them. We can go live to it now. It's our sparrowhawk. Of course, sparrowhawks are specialist predators of small birds, and when those tits fledge, the male sparrowhawk is very keen to try and snatch them out of the trees. This is the female. She sat on 5 eggs. She's been on eggs since we've been watching her. We're running a sweepstake, Makola.
I reckon Friday. I reckon tomorrow, but I think that's a bit optimistic actually now.
I said Saturday, and we're not seeing any signs that they're looking like hatching, because in the last few days of incubation before they do, the eggs start to communicate. The young chicks inside are peeping, and you often see the female standing up, looking down curiously at them, and we haven't seen any of that behaviour at all. So she's been quite static on the nest, but we discovered another little secret place in the wood that she likes to visit, and we're calling it our Sparrowhawk Spa. We can go to it live now. This is it. It's a little pool. It's quite in a quiet area, undisturbed. I'm not surprised it's not being used at the moment because the temperature's begun to drop here. The sun's going down now. It's not as warm. But during the course of the day, it's been really busy. Lots of birds coming here to bathe, not least our sparrowhawk female. She gets involved very enthusiastically. It's a beautiful sight. and not something you'd normally see because they're very vulnerable, even predators like this. And of course, it's not just the sparrowhawk that's visited. Lots of other small birds have come there too. Look how attentive this blackbird is. It wants a bath, but it doesn't want to get caught out. And the robin, which is absolutely drenched. And here, we've got a female blackbird on the right and a male black cap on the left. Great tit, of course, here. But you know, I'm thinking that's Sparrowhawk Spa, but it could also be the perfect cafe for afternoon tea if none of those birds are there when it next turns up.
When you see all those birds and you see the sparrowhawk, you'd probably presume that that was the top predator in the wood, but maybe not, because there's another character that could be a threat to the chicks and the adult, and it's this, the tawny owl. Now, we've seen this owl a few times on the plucking post, which is just near to the nest, and look, it's got a rabbit. It's caught a rabbit, which is quite impressive prey. You look at the size of that rabbit and you think, yep, it could actually predate that sparrowhawk adult.
It's really impressive, actually,
very
a rabbit
impressive.
of that size.
I mean,
it's not a fully grown rabbit, but, you know, that's a half-grown rabbit, and the tawny owl's got it, and it's a fresh kill as well.
Wasn't just a tawny owl, though. There was also a fox that we saw sniffing around. This is a young fox. But this just goes to show that this plucking post works. The plucking post is where the male sparrowhawk brings the prey, the female gets off the nest, comes down, plucks it and eats it away from the nest, which draws predators away from where the chicks are. So it's working, Chris, isn't it?
It's working fine. I mean, it's scavenging for any scraps there. It's picking up little bones, even chewing the feathers. But this is what the sparrowhawk's objective of having the plucking post there is. You know, they're not beneath the nest, they're 50 metres away, so it's a perfect strategy. Now, yesterday, I think we offered you a pretty unique opportunity, a chance to name a species of British animal, a crustacean in fact, a small crab that's been rediscovered in the southwest. So the Cornwall Wildlife Trust very kindly said that if you, the viewers, could come up with a sensible English name, it does have a scientific name, Clibonarius erythropus here, but if you could come up with an appropriate common or English name for it, then they would start to use it.
Well, 3,000 of you came up with suggestions in the last 24 hours. I'm going to read a few of them. We had warrior crab, Cassius crab. I like this one, chili leg crab, because they have red legs.
They do, little chili.
Fire legs for the same reason. Little nipper. I can't see that in a scientific reference book, though, can you?
Field Guide to Crabs.
Crab, I quite like that one. And the comeback crab. But what we've done is we've chosen the top 3, and that's what we want you to cast your votes on. You've got till 8:30 to do that, and you can do it on the web. But what we've done is we've chosen our favourite each. Remember, these are the ones that you've suggested, and lots of you suggested the same names. And we're championing one of them, and we want you to vote for one of these 3. So mine, okay, I'm going for, I really like this one that a few people suggested, phoenix crab. Because if you remember, the phoenix was a mythical creature that rose up from the flames and the fire. And you think this little crab has risen up from possible extinction, risen up from the horrible pollution in the sea. I like it myself. Was that a good sell?
That was quite theatrical.
A bit over the top, actually. Let's be honest.
I give you another name chosen by yourselves, St. Piran's crab. Now, I'm saying St. Piran's crab's a good name because St. Piran is the patron saint of Cornwall, and the legend has it that the Irish heathens threw him into the sea wearing a millstone around his neck, bit like the crab's shell, and then he crawled out onto a Cornish beach, bit like the crab has done now, and he became a hermit, bit like the habit of the crab
clever,
here. St. Piran's crab is my favourite of those that you've chosen.
St. Piran's is good. I think you could have been a bit more theatrical, actually. But anyway, you've got St. Piran's, you've got phoenix crab. Martin, who are you championing?
I like the centurion crab, Michaela, because centurion crab alliterates the 2 C's, and centurions make me think of armoured Roman soldiers, and they had those rather fetching little sort of pinky red skirts that they used to wear as well, like those little red feet. Anyway, enough of that. One of the reasons why Minsmere here is so fantastically successful for wildlife is because they carefully control all the time the water levels here. Now, how they do that is a series of sluices, and that creates habitat, open water for things like otters and maybe bigger fish, the reed beds, of course, for things like the bitterns, and then you've also got, of course, the sluice itself. And they have to control the level on the sluice because otherwise if it comes up too much, those nests will get sunk. So as I say, they do that by a series of sluices. Well, that's great for all the wildlife, like the birds and the otters, but I tell you what, it's not so good for another species, and that is the eel. Now, eels, very curious, mystical animals, so strange. These ones are called what they call yellow eels. They go through a number of different forms in their lives. Now, all around me here and all around you at home, there'll be yellow eels because they're the ones that live out in the fresh water and they can live for an astonishingly long time. I think the world record is said to be 155 years for a Swedish eel, but normally they'll live for about 20 years. Then something magical happens and a switch gets thrown and they start heading down towards the sea, migrating out to try to spawn, to reproduce. Where on earth do they go? Well, nobody's quite sure. But here we go. This is the adult eel, the yellow eel. It then goes out to sea and it turns into what they call a silver eel. Now the silver eels migrate out, they go 4,000 miles to the Sargasso Sea, changing their shape. They become just like an egg-laying machine. And then when they get to the Sargasso Sea, they die and lay their eggs. Then these little larval forms, which are more like plankton, they don't swim, they get washed by the ocean currents back to us, back to Europe. They turn into these funny little glass eels, which are sort of see-through, bizarre-looking things, rather beautiful actually, and they eventually turn into elvers. Now, it's when they get back here that those elvers and those glass eels run into a massive problem. That is the pinch point, and it's all to do with these sluices, because what they do is if they come along here, let's lift this up, we'll have a look at this sluice. Hang on. Here's the sluice. Now you can see what's happening here. That's the water level, the high water level, goes over the edge there, down to the lower water level, and that's what's keeping it at that precise level. Imagine if you're a little elver, a little see-through glass eel, how are you going to get up that lump of concrete there? Well, have a look at this, they're not very good at it. Here, look at them struggling to try and get up, but of course they're not going to do it. Okay, we're going to do something about that. We're going to try. Okay, what can we do to help those eels here? Well, I'm going to get this. This looks a bizarre looking contraption, isn't it? It looks like a sort of an upside down brush. But this, if I put it in here, will allow the eels to swim up, get some purchase, and come all the way up here. Let's see if I can get it in. Here we go. Oh, proper little bit of work. Oh, I've got the wrong end in. Well, you get the idea anyway. So the eels now can come from this watery bit here all the way up to the top, and then they'll be able to swim on up here. And then we're putting in little eel ladders like this all round Minsmere. I'm going to now put these chocks in and finish off this job, and I'll see you a bit later on. Cheers for now.
He's never happier than when he's got a hammer in his hand, is he, Chris? But it's great because he's been mucking in, well, this week and last week, helping the RSPB and volunteers to do something great for nature, and today he's doing something great for eels. Well done, Martin.
Top work.
Now, from Martin to a rather large, sexy, glamorous bird, our beautiful golden eagle.
Yes, we've had great good fortune to have some cameras on Golden Eagle's nest up in Scotland, and we've been enjoying fabulous views of both the adult and the chick as well. Now, the nest is 427 metres above sea level up in this quiet glen here, and eagles choose their nest site based on the availability of nearby live prey, which they require to feed their young. But the nest itself changes shape. Now, we've highlighted the fact here that when the chick was young, there was a very deep cup for it to sit in. That stopped it falling out, of course, and also protected it from wind and rain. But the adult has been constantly modifying the nest. Look at it now. Again, we've highlighted the centre part of the nest. The cup's largely disappeared. There's a depression left there. But the bird is adding branches all of the time and changing the structure. And this isn't a random thing. It's not just plonking them in anywhere that it fancies. It's deliberately placing them to change the structure of that nest, because as the bird grows, it doesn't want to be contained in a cup. It wants to be able to wander across the surface, and by the time it's exercising its wings, the adult bird will have transformed this from a nest into a platform.
So it's sort of gone from a bassinet baby cot, hasn't it, to a playpen where it's sort of crawling around.
I would have no idea what a bassinet baby cot is, personally.
I know what that is.
I know what a cot is. I've never heard the term bassinet. I thought that's something that knights wore. It sounds like a piece of armour.
They have it on aeroplanes to put your baby in. But anyway, it's quite interesting where that nest is, because it's north-facing. Now, in Scotland, where it can be very cold, you'd expect it to be south-facing to catch the sun. But those chicks are so well insulated that there's more threat of them overheating. So it's better that they're north-facing. But I think that would surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, that would surprise me, actually. I'd have thought up there, because the weather can be really inclement, especially when they're small. But the one thing we can't see in those pictures, though, is the fact that nest is situated under an overhang, so it's protected from the worst of the wind and the rain.
But our chick is hitting milestones. Let's have a look. It's 3 weeks old now. It's still being fed by its mother, and the mum has brought in a young fox cub. But if you look closely, the mum's tearing a bit off. But look, Chris, it tries to eat itself.
First peck.
I know that looks insignificant, but as I say, this is a real milestone for this chick. It can't eat by itself yet because it can't stand up yet. And it needs to stand up to be able to hold the prey down, to tear the food. Now it's resting on its tarsus, which is like its ankle. But look at what it's doing. It's got some intestines here. This must be very frustrating, Chris, because it's sort of sucking it in. It's really like an incredibly long bit of spaghetti. Yeah. But this is interesting as well.
Yeah, it tries, look. It's trying, isn't it?
Well, it's got it stuck on that twig, and it's twisting the twig. And again, that's learning behaviour. That's twisting motion is what it's going to have to do when it tears off the meat. It's still going with those intestines. And that went on for quite some time. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? Spaghetti never just seems to end. Do you know what I mean?
We haven't all been there, no. But
some of us use a knife and fork.
The interesting thing is, though, that birds of prey feet are actually modified in terms of catching their prey, but also for holding it down. And if we were able to get a close-up view of the sparrowhawk's feet, you would see that of the 3 forward-facing toes, this one is especially enlarged because they're using that to hold their prey down, rather like a fork when they're pulling it to pieces. Perhaps next time it's on the plucking post, we can try and zoom right in and see that it's got that enlarged toe. I'll tell you what, another thing we should do at the moment. Let's go live to our blue great tits nest just to see how that little youngster's doing. Well, he's there, or she's there, being fed. Let's just wait to see if the blue tit comes back. I think it might have had the food already. It's flown off, but at least the youngster is still safe and secure in the box for the time being.
Going back to our golden eagle chick, hopefully we're going to see a lot more next week, and maybe it'll start feeding. That'll be a great milestone to see, won't it? Now, not all of us are lucky to go and see golden eagles in the wild of Scotland in our spare time, but I think most of us can get somewhere where we can see wildlife, even in an urban area. David Lindo takes us on a bird-watching tour of one of the UK's busiest cities.
Newcastle upon Tyne, built on shipbuilding and trade, now a busy retail, business and cultural centre. Together with neighbouring Gateshead, it's home to nearly 500,000 people. But if you know where to look, you can find wildlife even in the heart of this bustling metropolis, even amongst the city's most iconic landmarks. There are absolutely hundreds of kittiwakes here on Tyne Bridge and other buildings surrounding. It looks absolutely incredible, but the sound is phenomenal. The kittiwake is our only true seagull, spending most of the year far out to sea and only returning to coastal cliffs to breed. Its population has plummeted by nearly half since the turn of the century, but since the 1950s, more and more have chosen to nest on these riverside buildings, and they number around 800 pairs here. They're not universally popular, but the council has steadfastly protected them. And one rather glamorous residence offers a fantastic view into their private lives, the 4th floor of the Baltic Centre for Contemporary Arts. I'll tell you what, it really is Baltic. The wind is blowing and it's pretty cold. But I have a really unexpected privilege. I can't get over it. It's incredible to be so close to these birds, getting on with their daily lives. From this position, you can really appreciate the beauty of the kittiwake. The way they look so gentle, and their eyes, look at their eyes, and they've got this lovely red eye ring. They are really attractive birds close up. You'd never get such an intimate view on the remote cliffs where they normally breed. But I can understand why they're here now, because obviously to a gull, a building with a ledge like that, that's a great substitute for a cliffs ledge. And it's a lot safer than being on the coast as well. You haven't got marauding great black-backed gulls chasing after you or hunting your chicks. So this is a much safer environment for a kittiwake to raise its family. The kittiwakes have chosen pre-existing structures, but not far away, within sight of the metro centre and the busy A1, there's a wildlife haven that's been specially created. Steve Purvis from the Durham Wildlife Trust wants to show me this exciting and far-sighted project.
As we always work from ground up, we're looking at the biodiversity of the wildflower meadow. So if we increase that, we should be able to get more creatures in, your bird life to increase as well.
They've created a 16-hectare oasis of wildflowers and hedgerows, and it's buzzing with animals. A slice of country life in the middle of a metropolis. The meadow is part of a green corridor extending into town. The highlight is a ribbon of riverine forest that brings wildlife right into the heart of Newcastle. It's a wonderful place to unwind, and there's something really rather special living here, right under a busy road. Absolutely incredible. Dippers. I reckon most people in this area would never know that these birds are here. They actually dive underwater in search of their prey, which is very unusual for a songbird. Oh, look at that. I mean, it's just incredible. Dippers need crystal clear water to catch their prey. As Newcastle's waterways have been cleaned over the last 30 years, they've made a comeback. When I was a kid, I always imagined them to be in areas that were totally inaccessible and places that I would never get to because I didn't have anyone to take me there. I just can't believe that I'm watching dippers right here in the middle of an urban area under a bridge that has a busy main road. I'm amazed by how much I've seen in a single day on Tyneside. Thanks to the efforts of councils and conservationists and the adaptability of the animals themselves, what was once an industrial powerhouse is now a destination for watching wildlife. This is a fantastic spot in the middle of the city. There's life everywhere. I'm looking and I'm seeing blue tits here. And I'm hearing so many different bird songs. Blackcap, wood pigeon, blackbird, chaffinch. And there's a tree creeper. It looks like a little mouse creeping up the side of that tree. I could sit here for hours.
It's great, isn't it, to see little pockets of habitat
in an urban setting like that. And it's great to see that some animals adapt so well to city dwellings. They really thrive on it, some of them,
don't need much space either. Sometimes it's a tiny patch of greenery or some little opportunity for life to sneak in there. But yeah, those kittiwakes on the Baltic, well worth a visit. There's a little glass chamber on the side. You can go through the door and just stand there, protected from the elements, looking at the kittiwakes. But you know, there are some animals that you can go into little glass chambers to see at an art gallery. There are some animals that are very difficult to see on demand. If you want to see a badger, you go to a set. If you want to see a fox, come to my back garden. Basically, you can't get up in the morning though and think, I'm going to go out today and see a stoat. And yet for the last 2 weeks we've had an extraordinary opportunity, not just to see a stoat, but to follow the life of a single female stoat. A mother that we've got here with 8 kits. And our cameraman have learned her habits and they've been able to follow her. And they've seen her doing all sorts of things. And yesterday it was this. She's been out after rabbits, but now she was predating a green woodpecker's nest 7 metres up in a tree.
It's really interesting to see what she does here, because she positions that chick. She goes up, gets her bearings, works out how she's going to get that chick down the tree. She comes back, grabs it, and drags it up to the top so she can get it down to the bottom. But that's incredible, because that must be quite a weight for that stoat.
It is quite a weight. And I should say, you know, this is active hunting here. This is predation in action. Bear that in mind.
Now she's taking it to her kits that are hidden away in that grassland somewhere, but she's back for the second chick.
Look at this, she's got a strategy now, Michaela. She's going to balance that chick there, and she's got it in the right position. She comes out, climbs back up again. But I never realised stoats were such good climbers. I've always thought of them as purely terrestrial animals. I've never seen one up a tree. It's amazing.
It's incredible to see this at all. Look at the muscles in her shoulders as she drags that chick. This is a hard-working mother. Remember, she's got 8 kits, a lot of mouths to feed. But look at the way she's going down the tree.
She's going down like a pine marten. Look at the back legs turned around. She's hanging on with those claws. Off she goes, carrying that to the youngsters away in the reeds there. And of course, a nest full of woodpeckers like this will keep those youngsters going all day. So this is a very important meal for her.
Now the third chick doesn't go quite as planned. She's trying to drag it out. It gets stuck and eventually falls down. Well, that's one way of getting it to the bottom.
She knows exactly where it is. She just goes straight down the tree to get it.
Now, of course, that sounds like good strategy, but actually it's not, is it, Chris? Because any other predator could come and take that chick.
No, yeah, because something could scavenge it before she got down. But she knew where it was, scampered down pretty quickly, and again off through the log pile towards those kits that are hidden somewhere over there.
She's straight back up to the bottom of the tree, and up she goes, scampers up.
Honestly, it's amazing. But, you know, I would never have thought a stoat could climb like that.
So this is now the 4th chick. You can see again, she's struggling, but this one, she decides she's got it sussed. She doesn't need to drag it backwards. She's straight out down the tree again. So this is the 4th chick.
It's a bit tangled up in the honeysuckle there.
The energy involved in all this, Chris, is incredible,
She's
isn't
a super mum. She really is a super mum. There's absolutely no doubt about it. She's a smart stoat. Smarty.
Smarty the stoat. But look at what happens here. The adult woodpecker comes back. That was the female. The stoat's looking out. I'm quite surprised that adult doesn't go and attack the stoat. But it doesn't. It's alarm calling.
Yeah. They do come in. And look, the adult is still collecting food. It's going through the process of starting to regurgitate it as if they were young there. But it doesn't get too close to the stoat. Meanwhile, stoat's been inside, and there you can see her bloodied chin indicates that she's been feasting in there herself. A well-deserved meal, I would say, after all of that hard work.
Look at her wiping it, though, on the edge of that hole. That really was truly amazing, stotily amazing, right, actually.
Well, I mean,
it really was.
Yeah, I mean, it's what comes of having a team of people, good, top-quality naturalists with cameras out in the woods and those remote cameras that we have here. But what a female. She's doing a remarkable job trying to rear those kits. And what we hope is, of course, that we don't lose her now, that we can continue to follow her next week to see what we've seen her catching rabbits, which we haven't shown you. She's been proficient at that most days, but it's fascinating to get this glimpse into the life of an animal that you so rarely see. But from one svelte, streamlined, extremely elegant animal to another, Yolo Williams up in the Farns.
I'm shaking it up a bit today. I'm leaving the islands. We're going to find out what's lurking in the waters around this wonderful archipelago. The rocky outcrops here can number anything up to 28, depending on the state of the tide. And as such, offer perfect perches, not just for birds, but for our largest resident carnivore, the grey seal. Now, I've heard that they come here in good numbers, so I'm hoping we're in for a real treat today. Between 3,000 and 6,000 seals reside around the Farne Islands, so spotting them isn't hard. You can tell them apart from their common cousins because they have fewer spots on their bodies, and also they have this long Roman nose, and the Latin name for them is Halicoiris grippus, which means hook-nosed sea pig. A little bit unfair, I think, especially when you've got a nose like mine. The Farnes is home to one of the largest colonies of grey seals in England. Perhaps unsurprisingly, they don't come here for the sunbathing. This is the North Sea after all. They come here to the Farnes in the autumn to seek shelter from the North Sea storms and to give birth to their pups. And they'll hang around until spring because then they feed on their favourite food. And it's the favourite food of most of the wildlife here. It's the sand eels. They aren't picky though, and can munch on a variety of other fish too, eating up to 7 kilograms of fish each day. They achieve this by diving to depths of 300 metres for up to 30 minutes at a time. But their talents extend to above water too. These seals can sing. Can you hear that? Can you hear that sound? Do you know, in the olden days, fishermen used to say that that was the sound of the souls of fishermen that had been lost at sea. Incredible, very haunting sound, carries over the water. Not much is known about why grey seals sing. Some say the calls may be between family members, mother and pup. Others say the calls are made by males to attract females and maintain territories. Whatever the reason why they do it, it may well have saved their bacon, or in this case I should say blubber. Due to escalating numbers at the end of the last century, the government looked at doing a grey seal cull. But here in Northumberland, the fishermen voted unanimously against it. They said that the seals were important, in that their vocalisations warned them off the rocks here in bad weather and low visibility. As such, the grey seal became a firm Farnes fisherman's friend. It's an amazing sound. But you know what? It wouldn't be fair to come all this way just to show you these animals loafing around on the island. We want to show you just how graceful and agile they are under the water. And I've been given a backstage pass to join them for this underwater show. Oh, I can't begin to tell you just how cold this is. I've got a thick wetsuit on, but I can feel the cold straight away. But the seals, well, they've got a thick layer of blubber, 6 centimetres thick. So they're built for this. Here we go. first, they're wary. But the longer I'm down here, the more they begin to trust me.
What an amazing experience. There's one time there when I must have had 5 or 6 seals all around me, and you see them on land and they're these cumbersome animals, but underwater they're like mini torpedoes. They really are. This is their environment. We can learn a lot from the grey seal.
Down here, enveloped in the playful serenity of their underwater world, you really could be anywhere. And we are. It is Phanapagos after all.
That was absolutely gorgeous, but he must have been freezing. And what was he thinking, Chris? I mean, he's been wearing a silly hat all week, and then the one time when he should have been wearing his wetsuit hoodie, he goes in without. Doesn't he realise you lose all your heat from your head?
You sound like Yolo's mum.
Oh, I do sound.
Would you want him to put a nice warm sweater on?
Exactly, and have a nice meal at the end of the day.
Let's go live to our great tit to see if our little remaining great tit is still there. It is. It's still in the nest box. I think it will be relatively unlikely, as the sun's going down now, that it will try and fledge this evening. We've just got to hope, of course, that if it does jump up to take any food from the blue tit that's serving it the food, that the jay's gone home for the time being.
As I say, I think the whole nation is behind that one little great tit that's
Certainly
left in
are.
the box.
But there was another nest that we were looking at here, that we were watching with our live cameras for some time. You might be wondering what's happened to that. It was a nest of these birds, our stone curlews. They're remarkable things. Migrants that come from Africa, crepuscular, got that big eye for hunting at night. We've seen them on our thermal cameras taking worms, and they had one egg that both the male and the female were incubating. Also got an extraordinary voice. Listen to this. So what happened? Well, last week there was a terrible thunderstorm here one night, and more rain fell in one night than it normally does in a month. And during the course of that, unfortunately, the incubating stone curlew came off the nest, and we think that the egg was chilled. They carried on incubating it, but today staff from the RSPB went out and took the egg. There's a very good reason for this. Firstly, it gives them the opportunity to look at that egg and see what happened. They'll be able to judge that. Might be able to perform some tests to see if there were any chemical pollutants. Not from Minsby, of course, but these are migrants. They could have picked them up elsewhere. The other thing is that if they take the egg like this, there's a very good chance that those stone curlews will breed again and lay another clutch. So it makes good sense. This is good, practical conservation biology learned through understanding the ecology of the birds. So fingers crossed that now they start over again and they're more successful with no thunderstorms next time.
Well, from the grasslands to the woodlands, let's check one of our other nests live, our little owl chicks. There are 3 of them in there, and you can... Oh, look, they're wing flapping. They are much more active than they have been. Their feeding rates are down, but they're being fed much bigger meals. That one's coming right out the nest almost, isn't it? As I say, though, they squabble in this nest, as any siblings would over food. Bit of a tug of war there. The one at the back finally wins. But look at this nest. It is full of maggots. It's absolutely fetid. This one has bitten off more than it can chew, or not actually, because it's trying to swallow this vole whole. And this is probably one of the first times it's tried to do this, rather than taking little bits that its mother's feeding it. And look, I mean, I don't know if it's falling asleep or whether it's in pain, but you can see it's seriously struggling. It manages it in the end.
It's not a comfortable meal, is it?
Not a comfortable meal at all,
Chris. It's like trying to swallow a cushion. Honestly.
But we're going to see a lot more of that next week, I think. But look, outside, listen. One of the adults is giving an alarm call, and look what happens. They all run to the back of the nest. There's almost like a little panic room there that they all escape to.
I wonder what it was outside. Could have been a tawny owl.
Could have been a stoat.
Could have been a stoat. We did see a mustelid animal of some kind on our thermal camera. We couldn't positively identify it.
But as I say, those chicks are becoming a lot more active, which means that they come to the front of the nest and we can see them in the daytime. I mean, you can see how much they've grown. We're going to see a lot more of this sort of behaviour next week, and we'll probably see them coming out, branching, or as I call it, semi-fledging.
Good. Be really good. Let's catch up with another nest that we've been watching this week. We can go to it live now. It's our dunnocks nest. It's relatively close to where we're sat, actually, just behind us in the gorse. And as you can see, it's empty. So why is it empty? Well, I can tell you it's because the dunnocks fledged this morning. So here they are, 6:26. Now, I have to say, the female hadn't been brooding them overnight, which is a good sign that they're big enough to keep themselves warm on the brink of going. And you can see there when they stand up, they're pretty well feathered, certainly on tops of their heads and their backs. Their wings aren't fully feathered yet, so they don't fledge in the sense that they will fly out of the nest. But what you will see happening is them turning round. They're quite mobile on their feet, ejecting those faecal sacs there for the female. Two of them nipped off, and then this one climbed rather mouse-like out into the gorse. And that's where they'll be at the moment. The whole family will be there. They have a special little contact call which they produce when the adults arrive back with food, and they'll be calling them in, and they'll still be being fed, Michaela, I've no doubt, just a few metres behind us.
And of course, some of you were watching that on our live cameras, and there's many ways that you can do that. There are many ways that you can watch.
It's never been easier to follow Springwatch wherever you are and whatever device you're using. By going to the Springwatch website on your laptop, phone or tablet, you can enjoy Springwatch live at any time of day. Catch the action as it happens with live webcams, as well as updates, news and expert analysis. And you can join in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter and the Springwatch Flickr group.
Many of you have been online during the show to vote for your crab name. We gave you a choice of 3 names and we wanted you to cast your votes. And I'm quite excited about this, actually. We're just about to announce the winner, the new name of this hermit crab. There were 3 names. There was Centurion. That was the name that Martin was championing. That got 16% of your votes. I was championing the name Phoenix Crab. That got 23% of your votes, which means there was a clear winner, St. Piran's Crab, which, Chris, you were championing.
There we are.
And I have to say, I think that is an excellent name for that crab. Do you want to explain it again quickly?
Patron saint of Cornwall, who was cast into the sea, emerged from it to become a hermit, so it's perfectly fitting for this small crab. I never thought we'd get to name one of the members of the British fauna on Springwatch, so thanks very much to the Cornwall Wildlife Trust for that opportunity.
And thanks for voting online as well. Very exciting. I've got something else quite exciting and good newsy to tell you, because we like good news, don't we? Do you know, recently there was an article in the paper that said May was the first time in the UK that solar power produced more electricity than coal.
That is good news.
Good news. But how do those solar farms affect wildlife? Well, a couple of weeks ago, I went to visit one just down the road.
Anyone travelling on our motorways recently will have noticed a change in the view. Vast solar farms have been springing up everywhere in our countryside. In fact, solar power has increased by 50% in the past year alone. But what impact are these farms having on our wildlife? Conor McGuigan has been in the solar farm business for many years.
How big is this site and how much electricity does it actually produce?
So it's a 5 megawatt site and it's 35 acres in size, which is more than enough to support 4,500 houses, takes 1,500 cars off the roads. So it's a massive saving in terms of CO2.
I guess the main complaint you get is what it looks like. I mean, let's be honest, they're not pretty, are they?
Well, I think they are pretty, but yes, I understand. But that's why it takes ages to find a site like this. So we'd have probably looked at 1,000 sites in order to get this one. So, you know, you're driving around the country, you're trying to find areas where you can't see them from any public viewpoints. The hedgerows here are over 4 metres high, and these modules only sort of rise up to about 2.5 metres high. So you can't see this from anywhere.
Some locals you definitely won't find complaining are the animals. The explosion in intensive farming in the second half of the 20th century had a devastating effect on many of our farmland species. Pesticides and habitat loss squeezing them to the brink of extinction in some cases. But solar modules can provide a boost for these animals. They're built on previously low-grade agricultural land. Solar energy production cuts out the need for pesticides and fertilizers while still offering the farmer a viable income.
This was a working farm until we came in, leased the land and put the modules up, and it's going to remain 25 or 30 years.
Now, what have you specifically done here then to help declining species like lapwing, skylark, tree sparrow, bees?
Okay, so we've put bird boxes up, we've got bat boxes up, and that's all part of the habitat management plan. We've sort of put hedgerows in, we've supplemented the hedges, we've put trees in, and obviously done a lot of wildflower planting. That in itself has actually made a huge difference in terms of the biodiversity. We've got skylarks here, and we've got buffer zones around those for nesting. We're not cutting the grass very, very low in order to let lapwings and skylarks actually come here and nest. So it's actually trying to promote as much as possible. We've also got our fence, as you can see, coming around the site for security purposes, but we have got habitat and little habitat gates there for mammals to come in and through the fence as well. What we've found typically in all of our farms is the biodiversity has actually increased tenfold.
Obviously, that's going to get better as the years go on.
We think so. So, again, these things are only here for the last 4.5 years, so we don't know exactly how actually as good it's going to get, but all the evidence that we've got so far is actually saying actually is really promoting and bringing back species that weren't here before, which is amazing.
Since the Industrial Revolution, technological advances have often been bad news for the natural world. Our pursuit of progress ignored the consequences for decades. But it's great to see an example of cutting-edge industry, which, if managed well, can actually benefit us and nature.
Fantastic. I like to see a solar array myself. Now, if they're really well organised, of course, they've got all those flowers underneath them, and that is great for insects, particularly honeybees. Now, we all know our honeybees have been in trouble of late, but a really fascinating project, Bee Bristol, has just started in Bristol. Now, what they've done, it's early days, they've set up a hive in the countryside, and they've also set up one almost identical in the town. And they're monitoring all sorts of activities of those bees. Here's the town one. It's a joint venture, Bee Bristol, at Bristol, and the University of Bristol School of Biological Sciences. Now, let's have a look, magically, at the inside of a beehive. Can you see this? Now, these are all brood combs. These are nearly all worker bees here. There's about 3,000 of them. And somewhere amongst this mass will be the one queen. She's got a little blue dot. I can't see her at the moment. But what's happening is that the queen is moving around, and she'll lay a single egg inside one of these honeycomb cells, and then the workers, they'll come along and they'll just cap it off. The workers are all females. They're all offspring of the one queen in there. They'll cap them off and they'll look after those larvae as they grow, and that'll be the new generation of workers. The worker bees probably only live for about 40 days, not very long, but the queen can live for 5 years, but she's probably past her prime when she's 3 years old. There's one other thing here. There's 1 or 2 larger bees, and they're what's known as the drones, the males. And I don't know if you can see right down the bottom here. See down there? Those bigger lumps, those are the big cells where the males, the drones, will eventually hatch out. But there's not many, it's nearly all the females there. Now, what they've done in the project is they very carefully, cleverly set up a system to record the movement of the worker bees, that's what they're interested in now, as they move in and out of the hive on their foraging expeditions, going out to try and get nectar and pollen, all the things that the hive needs. And it is very early days, as I say, but they've already come up with some very interesting results. Now, ignore this green line, but you can see something here. The country beehive, look at this. This is the time of day along the top here. And what they've done, they've woken up and they've all shot out. These are the number of workers going out of the hive. And then in the town bee, much less activity. They've sort of slowly gone in and out. Nothing, a bit lazy compared to the town bee, the country bees. Now, we don't quite know what's going on, but we think that the country bees are finding huge supplies of food, something like a field of rapeseed. They're coming back to the hive, they're telling all the others, we found this food resource, and they're all rushing out to go and feed. Whereas the town bees, what's happening is that they're finding small supplies of food, maybe in your garden, and they're coming back, they're not that excited, and the other ones aren't all rushing out to go and get that food. But this is just the beginning. They're going to try and find out loads and loads of things with this project. I love it. And now, you can follow this actually live. It's live sciences. You can get the results as they come in. There's a link to Bee Bristol on our website. Now, they normally these bees would be out foraging all the time. They can't at the moment. Just one more thought. That's about a pound of honey there. Pound of honey. That takes 55,000 miles of bee journeys to create that. Just value our honey. Value our honey. Well, as they can't get out, I'm just going to give them a little bit of sugar solution now, because they haven't got their food. Just pour it in the top here. Try not to get it all over everything. Oh, I did get it all over everything. And that will just keep them feeding, just in case you're worried. These bees are going home tonight and they'll be out foraging for flowers tomorrow morning. I could sit here and watch these for hours.
Now, they are fabulous bees. We all know that they're vital pollinators, and we all know that they're in massive decline. So we want you to help us by recording your bee sightings. Now, did you know there are 250 different species of wild bee in the UK? 225 of those are solitary bees. They don't live in hives. But we're focusing on just 12 of them. And Friends of the Earth have set up this great app to do the Great British Bee Count. This is the app. It's very simple. You've got the 12 bees there, and it shows you the difference. If you don't know what bee you're looking at, you can take a photograph of it and also send it in. But as I say, it's a very simple app. There's lots of information on the app, and obviously you can get all the details on our website, but it's a great thing to get involved in. Now, pollution is a problem for our bees. Plastic pollution is a big problem for our seas.
The Great British Seaside. With over 30,000 kilometres of coastline, the UK has some of the best beaches, rock pools and tidal estuaries anywhere in the world. A vast habitat, providing food and shelter to countless species and a place for us all to relax and enjoy the sunshine. Yet, our seas are facing a huge problem. The amount of marine litter washing up on our beaches has almost doubled in the last 15 years. It's the equivalent of 5 carrier bags of plastic rubbish for every foot of coastline on the planet. Over 5 trillion pieces of plastic now bob along in the sea currents, and they're affecting over 600 different species. We need to do something now to save our coastline from drowning in litter. We need your help.
It's a real paradox, isn't it? A substance that's become so precious to us, so available to us, so useful in everyday life is also becoming a global scourge. But we can do something about it, and this weekend will be the perfect time for you and us to contribute. We would like you to go out this weekend and join in a beach clean. The Marine Conservation Society have these. You can find details on our website. And you know, this is not something where they are going to do it. It's something where we have to do it. So please, if you've got a couple of hours this weekend, go to your local beach, pick up some rubbish and then send us some photographs and video of that, and we can celebrate it next week. And also tomorrow on Unsprung, I'm going to be joined by Martin Dorey, who's come up with a scheme of his own called the 2-minute beach clean, and we'll tell you a bit more about that tomorrow.
Brilliant. Now, don't forget as well, today is the very first day of Moth Night. There's actually 3 of them, a bit confusingly. You can get out and join in all sorts of moth-related activities. They also want you to look out for day-flying moths, which you can do in your garden. Look at this cinnabar moth. It's a beautiful thing. Quite a lot of moths fly during the day. And you could even, if you're really lucky, see this gorgeous one, the hummingbird hawk moth. Imagine that. Looks just like a hummingbird. Now get out and join in the moth work.
But what I want to know, guys, is if I'm going to do the beach clean, do I wear my shorts and T-shirt, or do I wear my fleece and long trousers? Do I wear my waterproof and wellies? I mean, you just can't tell me, can you? You have no idea, so let's just ask Nick Miller instead.
Michaela, you might need them all this weekend. First, though, for your moth counting tonight, it's looking really good. Still quite warm out there. Some cloud moving in, light winds, just how they like it. Heading to the beach, just don't expect perhaps to top up your tan, because there's a weather change this weekend. Weather fronts coming in from the Atlantic, bringing rain at times, but not all the time. It's not going to be a washout. Yes, a downward trend in temperatures, but only to something average for the time of year. Not the really cold weather we had last week. And if that great tit chick ever makes it into the big wide world, and let's hope so, this sort of weather, just typical for the time of year, shouldn't cause it any problems. Airborne attractions like this butterfly, perhaps less active, less sunshine. Look down though for slugs and snails, really appreciating something wetter. Some places have been quite dry. Here's Sunday, there's a band of rain moving through, but there's a wind change too. A southwesterly may bring more painted lady butterflies our way. Maybe an overshooting bird like a bee eater. It's a weather change, but it's also a wildlife opportunity. And here's the forecast for you at Minsmere. Yes, increasing cloud. The Springwatch Spa isn't going to be as busy, but the most important word here, it's this one. Whatever the weather, it's the weekend. It's not just any weekend, it's a Springwatch weekend. And it's waiting for you.
I love it. So basically it's just shorts, take your waterproof and everything else in your backpack.
Usual summer.
Let's have a look at our live cameras. Let's have a look at, I don't know if I'll dare to go, but this is the blue tit nest box with that one great tit chick in it. Keep an eye on that tonight, obviously, and over the weekend. We are rooting for this little bird. Should we go and look at our great tits now? And we haven't really featured them very much because we have been obsessed with the great tits in the blue tit nest box. But how many are there now? There are 5 of them, and they all seem to be doing pretty well.
Well, that's just about all we got time for this week. We've had a great week of stopes. Next week, we've got a weasel. Not only a weasel, but views inside a weasel's nest.
We'll be catching up with Monty, Glesney and Blue 24, our charismatic osprey from Wales. Certainly look forward to that.
And Yolo up in the farms will be investigating Britain's favourite seabird, the puffin.
And join me tomorrow night at 6:30 on BBC Two for Unsprung, where my guest will be none other than Germaine Greer in her guise as President of Bug Life. But don't forget this weekend, moths and beach clean. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.